On the advice of Paula Venables' husband, the post office modified the way it reported issues with its Horizon IT system. The investigation into the controversy has shown that the post office changed its terminology from bugs to anomalies and exceptions after receiving guidance from John Venables. This phrase was perceived by senior executives as less emotive. However, one of the inquiry's lawyers called the action absolutely Orwellian. The investigation, which has been ongoing since 2005, focuses on how hundreds of sub-postmasters were charged with theft and false accounting using the post office's malfunctioning Horizon software. What many consider to be one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in British history was the outcome of the prosecutions that took place between 1999 and 2015. Susan Crichton, the former general counsel of the Post Office, testified on Tuesday. A 2013 email from Ms. Venables asking her, engineer, computer literate, husband, what is a non-emotive word for computer bugs, glitches, defects that happen as a matter of course, was made public by Julian Blake, one of the inquiry's lawyers. Mr. Venables proposed, exception or anomaly, he was not employed by the Post Office. At that point, the Post Office began to refer to known system flaws as exceptions. Are we to understand here that words that were suggested by Paula Venables' husband have now made their way into the terminology that's being used by the business? Inquired of Mr. Blake. That appears to be the case, Ms. Crichton remarked. It's absolutely Orwellian, isn't it, the use of the word exception now, instead of bug? He stated, changing the language within the company. Mr. Blake was alluding to George Orwell's classic 1984, in which a totalitarian regime employs terms with diametrically opposed meanings as propaganda. Since you were involved in its drafting, could you perhaps take responsibility for a briefing that mentioned exceptions? He requested Ms. Crichton. Ms. Crichton stated that she would have contributed to the briefing regarding a report that investigators' second sight were scheduled to produce for the Post Office. If I had solely drafted it and it had been my work, then I would take responsibility, she stated, before clarifying, I can't remember that. Then, Mr. Blake displayed an email responding to the question from Martin Edwards, a current Post Office executive, and Leslie Sewell, the organization's former IT chief. In it, Ms. Sewell stated, we need to be careful in our communications, not to indicate that we do not have anomalies or exceptions, as that is not the case, it's the context which is important. Mr. Blake inquired as to whether there is a hint of smoke and mirrors about the whole thing in the phrasing. In response, Ms. Crichton said, yes, it does read that way.